So for our presentation, we chose to illuminate the group The Hallucination, formerly known as A Tribe Called Red. The Canadian band is well known for its politically charged, powwow drum-driven dance music. After the group was formed in 2008, they played a very large role in the resurgence of Indigenous music for a new generation of Indigenous musicians in Canada. Pictured on the right of our slide here are the two remaining members of A Tribe Called Red who now perform under the name Hallucination. So moving on to the next slide, just a little bit of background information on who was in the band, how the band got together, who left the band when, etc. So prior to the inception of the band A Tribe Called Red, DJ NDN wanted to find a way to give Indigenous youth a safe place to have fun through music. In collaboration with DJ Bear Witness and DJ Frame, the three made this happen in 2007 at an event they called the Electric Powwow. These parties blended traditional powwow recordings with electronic music genres like dancehall and dubstep. After performing as a trio for a while, they officially in 2008 decided to begin going by A Tribe Called Red. While the music was created with Indigenous youth in mind, there are still and were a large number of non-Indigenous individuals that enjoy and follow their music. In 2014, DJ Toolman would join the group, replacing DJ Shub as the fourth and final member of A Tribe Called Red. These four would go on to produce and release music for several years afterwards. Pictured on the right of this slide is an image of the band A Tribe Called Red. So DJ Bear Witness and DJ Toolman, as I said, were the last two members standing by the end of A Tribe Called Red's era, and in 2021, the duo decided that it was time to announce their rebrand as The Hallucination. They officially let the public know that the name would formally be changed going forward. The band, who are still active today, make sure to continue to uphold the values that A Tribe Called Red was created under. They made sure to keep their community-based values at the top of their priorities even after the band's rebrand. The two members that now make up The Hallucination shared with the CFWE during an interview that Indigenous people need to define their identity on their own terms. If you share this vision, then you are already a part of the hallucination. The main purpose of the group during its conception was to recontextualize the stereotypical depictions that are represented of Indigenous individuals in popular media. Their music was created to empower individuals and to unify populations through recontextualization. I found that this quote accurately summed up their overall story and message, and it was nice.
Visual identity. The Hallucination album covers feature woodland art style, which is one of the most popular Indigenous styles. Woodland art is known as legend painting or medicine painting. It is a mix of traditional elements such as animals, headdress, and patterns, with modern style like bright colors, bold lines, and digital design. Community engagement. The Hallucination actively participates in Indigenous art festivals and concerts, such as the Takaranto Festival, and celebrates National Indigenous Peoples Day. Through music and activism, they strengthen the community while including traditional dance into their performances, also giving a space for children and young dancers to show their skills and embrace the culture. Their strong social media presence is impactful. It is a powerful tool to spread awareness about their music and the message.
Live Indians dance at powwows, and when we dance, we sing at the drum. When we perform ceremonies, we are not doing it for North America's entertainment. Where North America sees dead Indians come to life, we see our families and our relations. We do these things to remind ourselves of our relationship with the earth. Mostly, though, we do these things because we enjoy them and because they are important. This is a quote from Thomas King, who wrote The Inconvenient Indian, and it really brings to life the importance of music, dance, and community, and the importance of the powwow to Indigenous cultures. And this is really where it all began for A Tribe Called Red. 21st century Canadian Indigenous culture is more and more becoming an urban-based culture, one that has survived cultural genocide. In most North American cities, ethnic minorities often lived in condensed neighborhoods where they could maintain and strengthen cultural ties. This is not so for Indigenous people and nations, however, who are scattered like an urban diaspora, a diaspora that ironically and fittingly within A Tribe Called Red and Hallucination were DJs in the beginning. This is important to know because their vibes started as community dance nights in a club setting. They were about getting people hype, dancing and shaking it, not unlike a powwow. Specifically, A Tribe Called Red were about bringing aspects of the powwow to a club setting. Their communal Indigenous space had a club night, and this became the Electric Powwow. The space of the club became a hub for Indigenous solidarity. It was an important place for celebrating cultural self-determination while existing in a nation that sought to annihilate them and still seeks to erase their culture and communities. This communal bonding over music that blended past and present continued beyond the club with the release of their first album. This first album, A Tribe Called Red, was galvanizing for Indigenous youth in Ottawa and across Canada. The second album, Nation to Nation, drew attention to other Indigenous artists through collaboration and began to build solidarity for political ends. This is when Hallucination really started to become a force against colonization and a strong voice for Indigenous peoples everywhere.
Music as resistance. The increasing visibility and popularity of Hallucination parallels a resurgence of Indigenous activism with Idle No More, MMIWG, Truth and Reconciliation, and the legacy of the residential schools. Their music is quite literally a melding of past and present musical styles and is gaining popularity at a time when the country is trying to reconcile its past with its present. DJ NDN began speaking out against racist sports teams' names, and Hallucination's music became the unofficial soundtrack for the Idle No More movement. Real recognize real. It's important to describe how their music is made due to the long-standing issues around Indigenous authenticity and the long history of cultural appropriation. For example, members of Hallucination have reported white people showing up at events wearing war paint and mock headdresses while mock singing along. And of course, Hollywood and television have been actively and knowingly appropriating and simultaneously belittling and misrepresenting Indigenous culture since the invention of motion pictures. To be sure, Hallucination samples powwow drum groups, but the use of the source material is respectful and collaborative, and the group gives mutual credit and benefit to the traditional Indigenous artists. Global impact. As Hallucination's music reaches a global scale, so does their own conception of solidarity. While on tour, they come in contact with other Indigenous communities such as the Sami and the Indigenous peoples of Australia, witnessing many parallels of colonization abroad and at home, such as Christian-operated government schools, the value and destruction of power of money, and the disconnect from one's culture. The third album, We Are the Hallucination, rejects the idea of the nation-state and seeks to dissolve artificial boundaries between peoples and places. The musical collaborations expand beyond local Indigenous groups to include Inuk artist Tanya Tagkak, Yasin Bey, formerly Mos Def, and Colombian artist Lido Pimento. Hallucination has taken their message of decolonization worldwide, expanding their circle of understanding and their message of resistance. According to DJ NDN, they seek to understand oppression and how to collectively dismantle oppression by
The current remaining members of the Hallucination changed their group name as well as the direction of their music, focusing on the activism aspects of their music and allowing more artist engagement for those disapproving of colonialism. Through understanding how colonialism is a cultural virus, it shows just how much damage has been done both in the past with residential schools and the attempted genocide. However, despite this being the past, just as well it seems the present with resource expansion and how this puts us above the other. With the reinvention of their group name, it also led to a new identity within the group. With this new identity came a new purpose. Thus, the Hallucination became an icon for all First Nations, Métis, and Inuit groups worldwide.
identity and decolonization. Hallucination uses media as a platform to highlight politically notable dialogue. They use media like music to bring up social issues because not all outlets of reaching the masses are accessible to groups affected by colonialism, especially Indigenous peoples. Through their travels, they've met other Indigenous peoples who also experienced colonialism, like the Sami of Finland and the Indigenous of Australia. Both groups experienced Christian-ran residential schooling which damaged generations of families. The commonality of colonialism is the intent to remodel indigenous nations into Western Christian cultural models. Cultural genocide is colonialism. Identity and decolonization. A personal quote from Group 9. To remove colonial mindsets, you must distance yourself from colonial ideas on identity. Decolonization starts from within and brought to reality when all peoples rally as one.